colleagues, thank you very much for convening this urgent meeting, urgent in so many ways, as we have heard, to draw the world's attention to the plight of millions of lives devastated, as we have seen, by these catastrophic floods. And our solidarity and condolences go to all those affected and to the government and the people of Pakistan. Today, the international community, including my own organization, must respond generously to the appeal of the government of Pakistan and help the people in need. We urgently need more global and concrete support for Pakistan and its people. Like our sister United Nations agencies and other humanitarian organizations, UNHCR is participating in the relief efforts as part of a collective response to support the authorities to provide assistance to more than 30 million people who have been affected, including the hundreds of thousands who have been displaced by floods, as we saw in the chilling statistics presented by the National Disaster Management Authority. Those affected, by the way, include also many of the approximately 3 million registered Afghan refugees and other Afghan people that Pakistan has hosted generously for many decades. Under the leadership of the government, UNHCR has already provided more than 71,000 emergency relief items in the worst hit areas of Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa provinces, and redirected supplies to respond to the government's urgent appeal for more assistance. And to mitigate the ongoing effects of this climate emergency, and once again alongside with many other agencies, we have delivered supplies to help households build up defenses around their homes. And this assistance has helped villages, Pakistani villages, refugee villages, in mitigating the effects. But much more, of course, is needed. And I would like to join previous speakers in encouraging all donors here today to fund the flash appeal and the UN's ongoing programs in the country, and to help the government and the people of Pakistan as they respond and rebuild. And I hope and trust, like the Secretary General said, and like Ambassador Hashmi just said, that this terrible tragedy will also be an opportunity to accelerate the increasingly urgent measures that we must take, at least to mitigate the effects of the climate emergency globally, including, as we witness in Pakistan today, tragically, widespread loss of lives, livelihoods, property, and infrastructure, and large forced human displacement. We have said it so many times, dear friends, we're running out of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grandi, for your remarks. And allow me now to invite Under Secretary General of the IFRC, Mr. Javier Castellanos Mosquera, to present his remarks.
Thank you very much, honorable ministers, your excellencies, Mr. Ambassador, and members of the table here present, and colleagues. First of all, I would like to express our sincere, deepest solidarity with the people of Pakistan in these catastrophic moments where the lives of millions of people right now depend on the work that the government of Pakistan is doing, but also on the solidarity that can be represented in this important humanitarian crisis. I would like also to highlight our recognition to the UN level of coordination that is happening in Pakistan, which is also remarkable, and is allowing a proper platform for such activities in terms of the coordination, that this is possible thanks to the support of the government of Pakistan. Similarly, to allow the Pakistan Red Crescent Society to deliver humanitarian services through the support of the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. In July this year, we activate the Disaster Response Emergency Fund for Pakistan Red Crescent Society in order to respond in 15 districts. In August this year, we expanded the Disaster Response Emergency Fund because of the situation, and just 5 days ago, we put 1 million Swiss francs for the initial response using the Disaster Response Emergency Fund. This has allowed us, to the moment, to reach to 34,000 people affected. All the pre-positioning stock in order to provide humanitarian services to people in need. On Sunday, we launched as the IFRC an emergency appeal for 26 million Swiss francs in order to multiply by 10 the number of people that we would like to support in coordination with the government, in coordination and complementarity with the UN efforts. The IFRC is in coordination with the government, in coordination and complementarity with the UN efforts. The IFRC is expecting that will reach to 35 districts in Pakistan. So double the amount of districts that we are already working through the Pakistan Red Crescent Society, and focus on three key priorities. The first one is on integrated assistance that incorporate livelihood support, multi-purpose cash, and shelter in this current context that will happen the winter, and this will demand tremendous needs with the people affected in Pakistan. The second one is about the health and care and water and sanitation. This has included mobile health clinics that are being operating already. 6 of those, our intention is to double the number of mobile health clinics in order to guarantee that health access is provided to the people affected, and at the same time water sanitation that includes water plants and hygiene kits and solutions related to water in order to prevent additional challenges related to waterborne diseases. And finally, the third priority is around protection. And within the protection, we are addressing community engagement and accountability as a key component, gender protection, gender and inclusion, psychological support, the dignity kits and spaces for people affected by this crisis. All of these initiatives have been fully coordinated with the government of Pakistan, with the Pakistan Red Crescent Society, and with the UN agencies in order to ensure complementarity, as I mentioned before. Therefore, supporting these emergency appeals are going to be of extreme help in order to be able to continue providing services to the people right now affected by these floods. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keslana, for your remarks. And I would now like to open the floor for statements and remarks, as well as any questions and comments that for colleagues and their excellencies and representatives that may be here in this room in Geneva. If you could please put up your card to indicate your desire. Thanks. I would like to ask the representative of Turkey to take the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would like to greet all honorable ministers, as well as Mr. Grandi and Under Secretary, and yourself, Mr. Ramesh. Turkey and Pakistan enjoy deep-rooted historical and cultural ties which stand the test of time. Pakistan holds a unique place in the hearts of Turkish people, and we are deeply saddened that the severe flood disasters which claimed the lives of many Pakistani brothers and sisters. We wish again Allah's mercy upon those who lost their lives, convey our condolences to the friendly and brotherly government and people of Pakistan, wish speedy recovery to the injured. We would like to inform that starts operations to extend the emergency relief to the Pakistani brothers and sisters who have been affected by the flood disasters. So far, 4 planes have been dispatched to Karachi carrying humanitarian aid. Experts from our disaster agency, AFAT, are currently on the ground working with Pakistani officials to distribute the aid and support efforts of our Pakistani brothers. AFAT aims to deliver 100,000 tents and 500,000 food parcels in total to the regions affected by the flood. Turkish Red Crescent Society is working closely with the Pakistani Red Crescent as well and delivering food to those regions in need. We are planning to send more planes in the next hours, and our officials are working on expanding the ways to transfer further aid to the country, including railway. We think that the international community and all UN agencies should increase its support to Pakistan in these difficult days. In this regard, the response plan will be prepared by Pakistan and other stakeholders, will be instrumental in mobilizing the support in the most efficient and effective way. Turkey and its well-experienced institutions will be at the disposal of UN agencies and member countries' aid efforts to Pakistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the representative of Turkey for his remarks. I would now like to give the floor to the representative of the King of Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Excellency, for your comprehensive briefing. First of all, I would like to express my condolence and sympathy to the government of Islamic Republic of Pakistan and its people on the victims of floods that swept a number of regions in the country. I wish for protection of the Republic of Pakistan and its brotherly people and a speedy recovery for the injured and those missing would survive. We feel the difficulty of the tragic conditions on the Republic of Pakistan due to the recent flood. In this regard, I would like to express our solidarity with the brotherly Republic of Pakistan and will continue our support in terms of humanitarian relief and developments project within the framework of distinguished brotherly relations that link the two countries, and to the Kingdom's permanent support for the Republic of Pakistan at all times and circumstances, especially in this context, for the people affected by the floods that caused a massive loss of life in the different regions in Pakistan. Also, I would like to inform you that related authorities in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia are currently working on revising the needs and assistance to the humanitarian situation in the areas affected in the floods in order to provide appropriate support and response to the brothers in the Republic of Pakistan, which made the responsibility upon the international community to provide urgent aids to the Republic of Pakistan and to stand by to pass devastating disasters. Thank you all.
I would like to thank the representative of Saudi Arabia for his remarks. I would now like to give the floor to the representative of Qatar.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, At the outset, I would like to express the state of Qatar's full solidarity with the Pakistani people and government in facing the devastations of the floods and torrential rains that recently affected the country. We wholeheartedly express our sincere condolences and sympathy with the families of the deceased and wish the injured people recovery. In this regard, His Highness the Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, Emir of the State Qatar, instructed immediately the urgent provision of the first batch of the urgent aid to the Islamic Republic of Pakistan to counter the ongoing floods. The emergency shipment of aid aims to benefit 35,000 Pakistani individuals as part of an urgent relief campaign to address the ongoing floods happening in the country. The sent aid contained 21,000 food baskets, 5,000 tents, 5,000 personal hygiene kits. Qatar Red Crescent Society has also allocated funds to support Pakistani's flood victims. The immediate humanitarian interventions plans entails giving emergency shelter and household goods to 200 flood-affected families, totaling 1,400 individuals. In addition, Qatar's charity delivered urgent relief aid to flood-affected Afghan refugees at the underprivileged members of the host community in Pakistan's Balochistan province, in collaboration, of course, with the country's province disaster management authority. The aid benefited more than 9,000 Afghan refugees and individuals from the host country. These urgent assistance provided by the State of Qatar to support the Pakistani people comes to provide them with urgent necessities and support them to stand up again and rebuild their societies after this disaster. Let me conclude by affirming my country's unwavering support for Pakistan and its full readiness to provide all necessary assistance that will help the country to overcome this crisis. Would like also to conclude by calling upon the international communities and agencies to come together and share immediate and urgent humanitarian aid to relieve Pakistan. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank the representative of Qatar for her remarks. I would now like to give the floor to the representative of France.
Merci, Monsieur le Directeur. Monsieur le ministre des Affaires étrangères du Pakistan, Monsieur le Haut-Commissaire aux réfugiés, Monsieur le représentant permanent du Pakistan à Genève, Excellencies, dear colleagues, I thank you very much for organizing this flash appeal meeting and for your presentations and insights into the tragic situation in Pakistan. The unprecedented floods are yet another example of the catastrophic humanitarian consequences of climate change indeed. More than 1,000 people are reported to have died since June, with more injured and missing. Millions of people are already in need of humanitarian assistance. Hundreds of thousands of houses have been damaged and destroyed. Hundreds of thousands of livestock have been lost. France presents its heartfelt condolences to the Pakistani people, to Pakistan, and to the victims. More than ever, the international community and humanitarian actors must respond to this emergency in perilous conditions to help the most vulnerable populations. French authorities are in close touch with the Pakistani government at the highest level. We heard your call, we are following the situation closely, and we are urgently preparing how best to provide assistance and meet the urgent needs of the Pakistani people, both on the national capacity as much as through our European and multilateral response. We commend in that spirit the rapid and massive mobilization of the humanitarian system, in particular in affected areas. I would have a question in that respect. What are the conditions of access of humanitarian teams to the field? Minister, Ambassador, France is aware of the dire ordeal Pakistan is going through right now. We will respond in the spirit of solidarity that marks our joint commitment to the United Nations, and we express our thoughts of full support and friendly sympathy to the people of Pakistan. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank the representative of France for his remarks and would now like to hand the floor to the representative of China.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, It's really sad that recent severe flooding in Pakistan has caused heavy casualties and serious property losses. This joint launch of the 2022 Pakistan Floods Response Plan is very timely and relevant. We sincerely hope it will muster the strength of all parties concerned to help our friends and people in Pakistan to get through the difficulties. In this harsh time, our thoughts have been with Pakistan, especially the people in the affected areas. Chinese President, Prime Minister, and State Councilor and Foreign Minister expressed respectively their sympathy, condolences, and solidarity to their counterpart under the social and livelihood cooperation framework of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. China has provided 4,000 tents, 50,000 blankets, and 50,000 pieces of waterproof tarps already. They have been delivered to the front line of disaster relief. In light of the situation on the ground, and based on the need of our Pakistani friends, China has decided to provide an additional batch of emergency humanitarian supplies, including 25,000 tents and other supplies in urgent needs. The Red Cross Society of China will provide $300,000 in emergency cash assistance to the Pakistan Red Crescent Society. The All Pakistan Chinese Enterprises Association has donated 15 million Pakistani rupees to the Prime Minister's Flood Relief Fund. China and Pakistan have enjoyed a long time and reinforced friendship and cooperation. We always reach out to each other and respond to major challenges and difficulties, including natural disasters, side by side. China will continue to provide assistance urgently needed in Pakistan and support its disaster relief work. We believe that with the joint efforts of the Pakistani government and the people, with the assistance of the international community, those in the disaster-hit areas will surely overcome the flood and rebuild their homes as early as possible. Thank you very much.
I thank the representative of China for his remarks. I would now like to hand the floor to the representative of Indonesia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Ministers of Pakistan, my dear brother Ambassador Khalil Hasmi, Mr. Filippo Grandi, UN High Commissioner for Refugee, and Mr. Xavier Mosquera of the IFRC. At the outset, on behalf of the government and people of Indonesia, allow me to extend my deepest sympathy and sincere condolences to the government and people of Pakistan for the loss of life, displacement of people, and destruction caused by monsoon flood. I would also like to express our solidarity and support to the government of Pakistan for the ongoing humanitarian response, especially amidst our continued struggle to address the COVID-19 pandemic. This calamity is a stark reminder how climate change has affected the scale and intensity of natural disaster. Therefore, as Pakistan faces the worst flood that it has ever seen, Indonesia wishes that the people of Pakistan could strive to rebuild a better and a more resilient society. And in this difficult time, Indonesia can be counted as a friend and a partner and stands ready to support the government of Pakistan and their people in their continuous effort to address the flood, its recovery, as well as efforts on disaster risk reduction. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I thank the representative of Indonesia for his remarks and would now like to hand the floor to the representative of Japan.
Thank you, Chair. And first of all, I'd like to also express our deep sympathy and condolences to the government of Pakistan and the people of Pakistan. The As was already expressed in today's meeting by United Nations leadership and other member states, this disaster is a tragic disaster, is a reminder for the all over the world that disaster relief and disaster prevention, humanitarian assistance, and the climate change, all those issues, we need further solidarity of the international community. In facing the news from Pakistan, Japanese government has decided to conduct air cargo of the humanitarian materials, including tents or plastic sheets. And we have heard that the Japan's aid agency, JICA, Japan International Cooperation Agency, dispatched the air cargo to Pakistan, and first airlift will be arriving tonight to Karachi, and the second cargo will be followed immediately. And also, due to the gravity of this disaster, my government is now assessing what kind of needs are there to conduct a further support and assistance to Pakistan. And today's briefing is instrumental for us to assess the needs that Pakistan is now facing. And we really appreciate the organization of this meeting. This is, we need to cope with the very short-term relief of the suffering people. But at the same time, we need to, as any countries, including Japan, which is also very natural disaster-prone country, we need a long-term preparation for the disaster, including the disaster prevention and also medical health system or water hygiene system to cope with this kind of challenges for the future. Japan will continue to work with the people of Pakistan in that cause. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Japan for his remarks. I would now like to hand the floor to the representative of Niger.
I would first like to express our condolences and our solidarity to the government and the people of Pakistan for the massive loss of lives, shelters, and infrastructures occurred by the strong winds and the floods that hit the country. We strongly uphold the call to all the relevant international stakeholders to grant necessary and urgent aid to the people and the government of Pakistan for a rapid and efficient implementation of the urgent response plan that have been set up by the government to address this natural disaster. We stress that the natural disaster that Pakistan faces is the unquestionable evidence of the unpredictable character of the climate change. And in that regard, reiterate the need to implement all the commitments we are taking at the international level, particularly to implement national policies and strategies that aim the mitigation, the adaptation,
and the really resilience towards the phenomenon of natural, of climate changes. That's what I wanted to say at this point. Your Excellency, I thank you, and we reiterate again all our solidarity for the government and the people of Pakistan. I thank you.
Thank you very much to the representative of Niger for his remarks. I would now like to hand the floor to the representative of the United Arab Emirates.
Thank you, Ambassador Khalil, and thank you, esteemed delegates from OCHA, UNHCR, and FIRC. Thank you for bringing us together and to share with us the grand scale of the unprecedented catastrophe in Pakistan. Our sincere condolences. UAE stands with you and the people and the government of Pakistan in solidarity at such an unprecedented point of climate crisis experienced in Pakistan. A human at pain anywhere causes pain to us all. On the direction of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, President of UAE, urgent relief assistance has been directed. And we have immediately provided, on immediate basis, relief assistance to the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, including more than 3,000 tons of food, medical, and pharmaceutical tents and shelter. And as I speak, in less than 24 hours ago, UAE began operating an air bridge to transport humanitarian aid to those affected by the floods in Pakistan. UAE and Pakistan have always stood side by side over decades, and this incident will not be an exception. We're closely in touch at the highest levels, and we are monitoring the developments with great concern, and we shall continue to providing assistance. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the UAE for her remarks. I would now like to hand the floor to the representative of Iran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ambassador Hashemi, and distinguished representative from OCHA and UNHCR and IFRC for convening this really much needed meeting. And it was really instrumental for updating us on the latest developments and give the first-hand impression from the real ground. Let me also, on behalf of the people and government of the Islamic Republic of Iran, offer our heartfelt condolences and sympathy to the government and people of Pakistan and the precious loss of life and property caused by heavy rain and floods. Our thoughts and prayers are with the victims, their families, and the people affected by the calamity. You are well aware that Iran, as a neighboring country, that the Pakistani peoples are very dear for us. We just recently, a few weeks ago, we have a nationwide floods that we are struggling with the consequences of that floods. And of course, the disaster that happened in Pakistan is in a much, much more larger scale. So we are well understand the calamity that is caused. And from the first days of the disaster, at the highest level, our presidents and the Prime Minister of the Pakistan has in close contact and coordination, and the humanitarian and agency in Iran are well ready to dispatch the much needed supplies and commodities to the Pakistani peoples for easing and ready. And also the commodities like blankets, carpets, tents with the thousands of tons are ready to be dispatched there. And also the medical relief teams has been ready on behalf of the Iranian Red Crescent Society to help in well coordination with the Red Crescent Society of the Pakistan. And also wants to use this opportunity to ask how we are going to use these disasters, because as Ambassador Hashemi mentioned, this is not the first and not be the last disaster that we are going to be facing. And all of our nations are facing with such a situation. Every day we need to be waiting for that. So one of how we are going to use this opportunity for using the lesson learned and the best practices, because that used to addressing the consequences of such a disaster. Then look at the plan that has been provided on behalf of us. It is quite very useful for the many nations to use it in the future disasters. And it is really commendable, the efforts of the Pakistani governments that has been as a first responders to the disasters, that has been actively engaged in comprehensively responding to the humanitarian needs of their peoples. And it would be quite useful in order to making and using the lesson learned from the response of the government people, Pakistani peoples to for the other countries. And another issue is the long-term consequences of the issue, because maybe in the few days, the needs of the peoples have been addressed, and since it is in the news, but maybe in the few next months, the situations will be much more difficult for the peoples that are affected. Maybe for the years they will face with the consequences. How we could actually support the peoples that has been affected in the long term. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Iran for his remarks. I'm also informed by colleagues in Islamabad that there will be further remarks from there, and they've requested that if we could perhaps keep our comments to be as brief as possible to give them the opportunity to also speak. I would now like to hand the floor to the representative of the United Kingdom.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Foreign Minister. Thank you, Your Excellencies and delegates. Thank you for briefing us and to all your agencies working on the relief effort. May I start by expressing the deep condolences of the UK people who share with Pakistan strong and deep ties, and the shock at the magnitude and the scale, unprecedented scale, of the floods that we've just heard about. As you know, £1.5 million has already immediately been put towards the very urgent relief effort. I know I'm in touch with our High Commissioner in Islamabad, Karachi, Lahore. All of our teams are on crisis watch and following very closely, working with your colleagues in Pakistan on needs assessments and on a further response to the UN flash appeal, which our colleagues in London are working on. As I speak, I'm receiving updates, and we'll have more news for you on that soon. We're also watching in the next 48 hours as this proceeds, but also very much seized of the fact that this will have implications and consequences on livelihoods, on reconstruction needs for the rest of this year and the years to come. So we were with you in that rebuilding effort. And we're, of course, very seized of this stark reminder of the climate moment that we're in as presidency of the UK presidency of COP this year. It's very urgent for all of us to remember our global duty. We've pledged £55 million to Pakistan on climate. Hamari dunya, hamari zimmedari hai. It's our duty globally. So this is to say 1.5 million is the start of our support. We continue to work with you and support the people of Pakistan at this time. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the United Kingdom and would now like to hand the floor to the representative of New Zealand.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to all honourable speakers here and in Islamabad who have briefed today. We in New Zealand are deeply concerned about the alarming humanitarian situation caused by the floods in Pakistan, and we commend the government of Pakistan and aid agencies for the critical and courageous response work undertaken so far. To support this response, Aotearoa New Zealand has announced a contribution of 500,000 New Zealand dollars to the International Federation of the Red Cross appeal, and our thoughts remain with the people of Pakistan that have been impacted, especially those who have lost loved ones, homes and livelihoods. Thank you.
I thank the representative of New Zealand for her remarks and would now like to hand the floor to the representative of Azerbaijan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We would like to firstly thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Pakistan and OCHA for organizing this launch event for the response plan, which is very timely and important at this critical moment of disaster that brotherly nation of Pakistan faces. We also thank the government and distinguished speakers for providing clear picture of causes of disaster, humanitarian situation driven by it, and information on the urgent needs on the ground. Devastating floods in Pakistan and victims suffered from the calamity once again demonstrated the importance of global solidarity. Therefore, support and response measures being provided by humanitarian partners delivering assistance to those affected are of paramount importance. Let me inform you that the government of Azerbaijan has immediately allocated $2 million of emergency relief to directly support brotherly Pakistan in its efforts to overcome the challenges posed by the disaster. Azerbaijan supports the ongoing efforts toward ensuring the urgent humanitarian needs of affected population and soonest elimination of grave consequences of this natural disaster. In these hard times, our thoughts are with the people of Pakistan, and we believe that with continuing support of international community, Pakistan will soon overcome this challenge. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Azerbaijan for his remarks. I would now like to hand the floor to the representative of Malaysia.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Malaysia is deeply saddened by the devastation caused by the unprecedented rainfall and floods across Pakistan. Malaysia would like to express its deepest condolences to the government and people of Pakistan whose families are affected by the loss of lives, livelihoods, and also loss of property due to the flood. We extend our sincere sympathy to the bereaved family and wish those injured a speedy recovery. Malaysia stands in solidarity with Pakistan during this time of need and hope that humanitarian and recovery efforts to be managed accordingly in a timely manner, including access to food, clean drinking water, health and medical equipment, and also shelter. Thank you.
I would like to thank the representative of Malaysia for his remarks and would now like to hand the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you. I would like to echo the comments of my colleagues in offering our condolences to the people of Pakistan who are suffering from these catastrophic floods. We appreciate this comprehensive briefing. The United States generously supports humanitarian relief and assistance around the world and will continue to do so. As one example, we provided $32 million to UNHCR's work in Pakistan this year in support of the refugees that Pakistan has generously hosted for many years. These funds and those we have provided to other humanitarian organizations are also being used to provide relief to communities throughout Pakistan. The United States is committed to addressing climate change, and we are committed to supporting the Pakistani people in response to these unprecedented floods. Thank you.
I would like to thank the representative of the United States for her remarks. I would now like to hand the floor to the representative of Norway.
Thank you so much, Ambassador and distinguished panelists. And from Norway, we would also like to echo colleagues in, well, say how deeply saddened we are by the situation and the consequences of the floods in Pakistan, and how we also, again, would like to extend the condolences to the government and the people of Pakistan. As a contributor to both the SURF and to the IFRC Disaster Response Fund, we are very happy to see how quickly this funding was dispersed and used out in the field. And we think that this is exactly why we put up funds like this, and how we have seen that both the UN system and the government of Pakistan has come together in acting very quickly and focused in the current situation is also a very positive sign of the global community's ability to function even in a situation of crisis. From the Norwegian side, we would like to comment that we would continue to look into both the response plan as it has been presented here today and to see how we can be helpful. We would also be interested if there are some more information about the displaced people and the situation in the camps. We would be very interested to get updates about that, and we will continue to work with you to be helpful and also to think about how we can prevent disasters like this in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you to the representative of Norway for her remarks, and I would now like to hand the floor to the representative of Sudan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for giving me the floor. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to express my country's sincere sympathy and heartfelt condolences to the government and people of the present Islamic Republic of Pakistan for the catastrophic loss and destruction of lives and livelihoods caused by the unprecedented scale of flood that is the country. I would like also to express Sudan's full solidarity and full support to the government and people of Pakistan. We strongly believe that at this time, the whole international community should stand side by side with the government and people of Pakistan and provide them with the very urgent needed support in order to help them to overcome this difficult time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the representative of the Sudan for his remarks. I would now like to hand the floor to the representative of Korea.
Thank you, Chair. The Republic of Korea would also like to convey the deepest condolence to the people of Pakistan, those who are experiencing hardships from the severe flood. We welcome the flash appeal and flood response plan launched today, and we are confident that it will contribute to prompt, coordinated efforts for the response and to building a basis for resilience. Staying aligned with all those affected by the terrible natural disaster in Pakistan, as well as the general supporters of the world, the Korean government has decided to allocate $300,000 in humanitarian assistance to the Pakistani government and its people. Standing with the people of Pakistan, the Republic of Korea reiterates its commitment to be an active supporter of those affected by the disaster and humanitarian agencies working in the disaster response. I thank you.
I would like to thank the representative of the Republic of Korea for her remarks, and would now like to hand the floor to the representative of Spain.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Rajasingham, Director for Humanitarian Coordination, and also Excellency Ambassador of Pakistan, and Mr. Castellanos, for Deputy Secretary for Coordination of Operations of IFRC. Let me start by reiterating the condolences that, to the people and the government of Pakistan that have been already conveyed by His Majesty the King to the President of the Republic in this terrible time of loss. As an immediate reaction, Spain has already allocated 300,000 euros through the IFRC Fund of Reserve for these kind of emergencies. This will be added to our regular annual contribution to the SURF this year of 2.5 million to respond to this type of crisis. We remain committed at this time to assist through our reliable partners, all the people of Pakistan, and in particular through our embassy in Islamabad, which is in contact with the Pakistani government. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the representative of Spain for his remarks, and I would now like to hand the floor to the representative of WHO, the World Health Organization.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Dr. Sosifal, Assistant Director General for Emergency Response in WHO. We first of all express my sincere condolence and solidarity to the people of Pakistan. And we are working very closely with all UN partner, humanitarian partner, and coordination of the resident coordinator, Mr. Julian Harness. And we are very concerned about the increased risk of waterborne diseases, vector-borne diseases, and it's really important in addition to the prevention measure to be able to anticipate the upcoming risk. And WHO is already working at the tree level to provide the life-saving medical supply using our contingency fund for emergency. We have raised $5 million to start the response, but the needs are much more bigger and will continue increasing. making sure that the continuity of health services is ensured, and we are able also to strengthen the surveillance system using our polio network, and the government capacity will be extremely important. So we really want to make sure that the health needs are prioritized, because people will die from disease at the end of the day if you don't do the necessary preventive action. Thank you.
Thank you to the representative of WHO for his remarks. I would now like to hand the floor to the representative of the OIC.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for convening this timely and informative meeting on the Pakistan floods response plan. Devastating monsoon rains and flooding in Pakistan have claimed more than 1,000 lives and continue to affect millions, resulting in a dire humanitarian situation with thousands deprived of food, water, and shelter. These unusual rains and severe weather-related incidents are a stark reminder that climate change is making weather more extreme across the globe, with a particularly heightened impact on the most vulnerable populations. Please let me reiterate here that the OIC is deeply saddened by the current crisis in Pakistan. His Excellency Hussein Brahim Taha, Secretary General of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, has already conveyed his deepest condolences to the government and people of Pakistan, and has urged all OIC member states, Islamic Humanitarian Organization, and the international community at large to deploy emergency assistance to alleviate the suffering of the affected populations. Against this backdrop, the OIC Secretary General is also planning to visit Pakistan very soon to express OIC's unwavering solidarity with the government of Pakistan and the people of Pakistan too. I thank you.
Thank you to the representative of the OIC. I would now like to hand the floor to the representative of Algeria.
Thank you very much. I'd like to convey my country's sincere solidarity to the brotherly people and government of Pakistan, as we share with them pain of this affliction after these severe floods causing heavy casualties and serious property losses. We send to the families and the victims and the Pakistani people and government our deepest and sincere condolences and sympathy. We wish a speedy recovery to the injured. Thank you for briefing us today and for presenting the Pakistan's 2022 floods response plan. Rest assured of our full support and solidarity in this difficult time to overcome considerable humanitarian situation. Thank you very much.
I thank the representative of Algeria for his remarks, and would now like to hand the floor to the representative of the Islamic Relief.
Thank you. Foreign Minister, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen and colleagues, Assalamu alaikum. I echo condolences on behalf of the international humanitarian NGO Islamic Relief. My chief executive is in Pakistan now, meeting families who've lost everything, supporting the response and raising awareness of the suffering. We recognize acutely how unjust it is that the Pakistani people face such devastating impacts of climate change, having done so little to cause it. We want to add to urgent calls for increased international response to this huge crisis. The devastation is certainly worse than 2010, and the response will need to exceed that to meet needs now and prepare for winter and a massive reconstruction effort. Islamic relief teams have been on the front lines alongside many NGO and civil society colleagues for weeks, working closely with the vital national and provincial disaster management response. We have already mobilised nearly £3 million in funds towards our £15 million appeal, which amounts to more than 10% of this flash appeal launched today. We stand ready to continue support the NDMA's leadership in this response, and we hope appeal funds will reach NGO frontline access quickly and efficiently so we can continue to deliver urgently needed aid. Thank you.
Thank you to the representative of Islamic Relief for her remarks. I would now like to hand the floor to the representative of IOM.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. IOM would like to reiterate its full support to the government of Pakistan in the response to the crisis, especially considering its high impact mobility, together with other UN agencies, as well as national and international humanitarian partners. IOM would like to reiterate its engagement to support the National Disaster Management Authority in its role as shelter, unify sector lead at national and subnational levels, together with IFRC and sector members. Thank you.
Thank you to the representative of IOM for his remarks. I would now like to hand the floor to the representative of Let's Save the Children.
As a result of increased poverty, we can already see negative coping mechanisms such as child labor and child marriage on the increase. Save the Children is already responding to the floods in Pakistan, in the Shaman and Pishin district of Balochistan, as well as in some districts in Sindh and in Peki. We have already reached 11,000 people, including 6,000 children, and mobilized $1.5 million US for our response, but we need more funding to scale up. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the representative of Save the Children for his remarks. We have now come to the end of our remarks here in Geneva, and I would now like to hand the floor back to our colleagues in Islamabad with our thoughts and prayers and condolences to the people of Pakistan for all that they have lost and that they are undergoing. Thank you.
And all the colleagues present in Geneva. As you are well aware, we have overshot the time that was available for this briefing session, so we will not be able to open the floor here for comments. I thank you all once again for joining us today, both in Islamabad and in Geneva, and for the expressions of solidarity and support for the people of Pakistan in this difficult time. It is indeed very much appreciated. This brings us to the close of the event. Thank you once again. Thank you in Geneva. Bye.
नाज़रीन, अक़वाम मुत्तहिदा रुकन ममालिक से हंगामी मदद के हवाले से दफ्तर ख़ारजा में तकरीब मुनक़िद की गई है, जिसमें वज़ीर ख़ारजा बिलावल भुट्टो ज़रदारी ने भी खिताब किया। वज़ीर मनसूबाबंदी और तरक्की एहसन इकबाल ने भी इसमें खिताब किया और यूनाइटेड नेशंस के सेक्रेटरी जनरल एंटोनियो गुतेरेस का वीडियो पैगाम भी सुनाया गया। इसके साथ साथ मुख्तलिफ ममालिक ने भी एड्स का ऐलान किया है, जो पाकिस्तान में मुतासरीन सैलाब के लिए अतिया कर रहे हैं। जी नाज़रीन, अब तक के लिए इतना ही। हमें दीजिए इजाज़त। मज़ीद न्यूज़ और अपडेट्स के लिए हमारे साथ रहिए।